My name is Ryan Harp, and this is FTH 202, assignment number 5. Today is going to be the final day of our revolver course, and we've got a 3-part assignment in. So first things first, we're in the shop. We've made sure there's no live ammunition in the workspace. We're wearing the appropriate PPE for what we're going to be doing today. Next thing we need to do is ensure the firearm is free and clear of any live ammunition. As you can see, there's no live ammunition. And we've also got a good look at the laser engraving that we added to the firearm, as well as the grip. So the first part of our assignment that we're going to get into, we're going to disassemble the firearm some, and we'll go over some areas of particular interest when inspecting the health of the firearm and why we're choosing these areas. All right, so we're talking about areas of particular interest when inspecting the health of the firearm and why these areas are of particular concern. So we'll first start with from nose to butt. So we'll start with the barrel. So anytime we're talking about a barrel of a firearm, it's very important that the barrel is structurally sound. We want to inspect the barrel for any pitting, any bulges or anything like that. On this firearm, we're definitely not going to see any of it. It's brand new. It's never been fired. The next thing that we're going to go to is going to be our cylinder. So when we're talking about our cylinder, we're going to be looking for end shake. So we're going to be looking for this total amount of movement within the cylinder. We don't want too much cylinder gap. It could be an extreme problem causing damage. If our cylinder gap is not appropriate, we're going to just allow for too much distance possibly between the barrel and the cylinder itself, and we could also not get the appropriate firing pin protrusion if we're not good in the go and no-go range. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is more of a group. So we're going to talk about the hammer, the double action sear, and then we're also going to talk about the trigger. So let's get this hand out of the way so we could talk about that. All right, so with the hand out of the way, we can see what we're talking about. So each one of these is important to be inspected on its own, but then you also need to inspect them as a group. So with the group, we need to see the complete interaction between the sear on the or the hammer notch on the sear and then the sear on the trigger. We also need to see the interaction between the sear and then the double action sear, and I don't want to let this fly out because it's going to hit, so which will drop the hammer back. The next area we want to inspect is the ratchet. So we want to check for any deformation, if I can get it into focus, on any of the ratchet hands right here where the claw of the hand is going to interact. If we have any damage to this ratchet on the extractor, then we're going to end up with issues with our cycle, and we're not going to be able to rotate cylinders. So the next thing that we want to inspect is the hand itself. So as we're going through, we want to inspect to make sure there's no abnormal wear on the hand and that the hand is functioning cleanly with the ratchet and allowing the firearm to go through the entire cycle. So the next part that we want to inspect is going to be the cylinder stop. So we're going to ensure we get disengagement and re-engagement. So this is where our timing is going to come into play and everything like that. So as we cock the hammer back, we want to see when we reach full cock, that full protrusion, and we see the cylinder stopped. The final thing that we want to check anytime we're inspecting the health of the firearm is going to be the health of the springs. So we want to look and make sure that nothing is out of tension or out of place. We want to make sure that all the springs are intact and still in good condition. The second part of today's assignment is to cover 10 different learning experiences throughout the course and why these learning experiences were learning experiences for me and how I plan to strengthen these points in the future. Number one is the nomenclature of the gun. So there's a bunch of different terms for this firearm than the typical AR platform or striker fire pistol that I'm used to. So learning these nomenclature items was very important to me. And in order to maintain this or grow this, there's just a necessity to keep working with the platform. Number two is going to be the cycle of operation rules. Learning that there's a little bit of a difference where the cycle of operations happens. It's not necessarily in the same order, and what each item does in that cycle of operations. There's several components in here that don't have a direct action but participate in something else's action to make it work. So that is a big learning experience for me, and the way that I plan to continue my growth with it is just working with other brands of revolvers and getting to know them and see if there's any differences. The third big aha moment, if you will, or learning experience was the difference between a transfer bar and a hammer block. I thought they were synonymous terms. I didn't know specifically the difference between the two, but learning the difference between the two and understanding that the transfer bar transfers the energy from the hammer into the firing pin, and a hammer block does exactly what it says. It just blocks that energy from being able to make contact with the firing pin. So learning those differences is key, and it was crucial for understanding. And I do know that different manufacturers use different safety mechanisms. So again, just playing with more manufacturers' firearms to continue to learn what is what and where is where. Number four is going to be the disassembly. So learning the disassembly of this pistol and how it's different from the Smith & Wesson like Model 66 and Model 38 that I've used in the past, and how they disassemble compared to this. That was a good thing. Getting more hands-on opportunities with different revolver platforms. I've also gotten my hands on some Heritage Arms and some other brands of revolvers to see how they disassemble and where it differs. So number five is the sub-assembly functions check. So with the revolver having this cheek plate that's removable, it allows you to see the complete sub-assemblies inside and how they're operating independently of each other. So that was something that was a new learning point for me, was getting to check the sub-assembly and not just feeling for, is the right thing happening? You can literally witness what's going on. I do know with some revolvers, they don't have cheek plates. You can't pull off the side. Especially with your break actions and things like that. So getting more experience and diving deeper into the sub-assembly differences between Ruger, Taurus, Smith & Wesson, everything's just, they're practically the same but just different enough. Number six is going to be the headspace. While headspace is not a new concept to me whatsoever, the idea that each chamber on the cylinder needed to be inspected for headspace was a new discovery to me. I thought if one was good, they're all good. However, if something was cut out of specs or something like that, or if there's too much runoff in either your yoke or something like that, you could be out of spec on some cylinders. So it's important to check all of them. Number seven is the importance of timing. I don't think, with the exception of the AR platform, I don't think I've paid much attention to timing. So the necessity for the appropriate timing in here, is a big learning moment, and then the way that timing works in this specific revolver was a big learning moment. So getting more time with different revolvers is going to give me more perspective into the timing. Possibly getting my hands on a reverse direction cylinder just to see where the differences lie and how I can improve my knowledge of timing. So number 8 is polishing the components of this gun. So that was a big learning experience. Due to the sharp corners that come with this cheek plate and some other areas, I had to polish the frame itself, not wanting to round those corners. I've never had to deal with that before. Most of my polishing has been on cylindrical brass components or barrels themselves. So it has been an easy polishing factor, just to smooth it out and keep it round. Here I wanted to keep those sharp, crisp corners, so that was a different aspect for me. And again, the only way to continue improving those skills are to continue doing it, so finding these pieces that need it and working on that. So number 9 is going to be the pre-polish work. And what I mean by pre-polish work is, in the previous video we put that the die chem on the inside and worked the action several times to see where we were interacting, to look for high spots. And not while I've done that before, I haven't had to do it in such a large scale environment, and seeing all of that and learning where it interacts was a new process, and again, something I want to try on additional platforms. And then the spring weight reduction, I've known that we could, like, in the 1911 class, we removed like a couple rings on the spring. Now, a way that we were taught in this class that we could do it is by polishing the outer dimensions of the spring, which will then lighten the weight. Part number 3 of this assignment is to go over some unique features that are found within the double action revolver platform, go over how these platform features developed over time, and what do they do for the ultimate performance of the firearm. So first and foremost, this double action sear, right? So we've inspected the firearm, it's clear. So with the double action sear, this is the first version of a firearm where a single trigger pull fires a single round. So that just opens up the speed of fire, the rate of fire. With a single trigger pull, a single round fired, it just opens up the rate of fire. So that double action sear is a big component in that. That was evolved over time as we went from single action into double action. Not only did it make the gun faster, it made it safer. The next part that we'll see is the swing out cylinder. So the swing out cylinder is definitely a unique feature to the double action revolver. And this swing out cylinder allows for rapid reloading and unloading of the firearm, and allows you to be back in operation rather quickly compared to single action firearms with unloading a single area at a time. And this was a very good progression because it started out with a cutout notch, started with a gate, and then we just kept progressing until we got to this swing out cylinder. The other thing that I want to talk about, which isn't present on this revolver, but is present on some revolvers, is the enclosed hammer. So the revolvers with the enclosed hammer, which are double action only revolvers, gave us the opportunity to have a firearm that could be concealed and fire from your pocket or anywhere else. So you were able to have a functional firearm without clothing getting in the way. All the information for today's assignment came from the Sonoran Desert Institute modules 1, 2, 3, and 4 lecture material, as well as Patrick Sweeney's Gunsmithing of Pistols and Revolvers.